Hello everyone, welcome to your 12th QB64 tutorial, and in this tutorial we'll be learning about random numbers. This is a pretty simple concept, but you have to learn it because in the next tutorial we'll be making our very first game, so pay attention. Now, to print a random number to the screen, of course you'd write print, and we're going to write RND, and RND of course stands for random number, and we're going to have it times 10, and what this code will do is it will print a random number that is less than 10 but greater than 0 or greater than or equal to 0. I apologize. And so keep in mind, less than 10, greater than or equal to 0. So if we run our program, and as you can see, that's a pretty random number, right? Now, you'll notice, though, that if we run it again, we get the exact same number, which is a random number, but the same number is being used repeatedly, and we don't want that. And so what we can do to fix this problem is we will put in randomized timer in our code. And what this does is it says, okay, random numbers will be taken from the timer, and the timer is basically your clock. And as you know, your clock is constantly changing. It takes your clock, like from the milliseconds, and uses that number to make a random number. And so basically random numbers in computers is basically an illusion. And so if we run our program with the randomized timer function, we get a different number, and we can run it again, and we get a different number. Now, as you can see, all the numbers that we've received from the program are called floating points. And floating points are basically any number, and it can be a decimal number, but what if we want it to be an integer, a whole number? Well, there's a very simple solution to this. I'm going to go ahead and make some space at the top. I'm just going to declare x as an integer, and I can just make a simple modification to the code. Instead of print random number, we'll have x equal that random number. And so what that does is, since x is an integer, x equals random number times 10. Random number times 10 will be saved as x, which is an integer. Thus, the random number shall be an integer. So we just have to print x. And if we run our program, we've got 2, which is an integer. We run it again. We've got 3. Run it again, just to make sure. We've got 0. Okay, now for further explanation, I'm going to go ahead and create a for loop. Here, you'll see why later, so I'm going to go ahead and declare x as integer, and I'm going to go ahead and declare another variable, dim y as integer, for x equals 1 to 10, y equals, I'm going to go ahead and randomize my timer real quick, randomize timer, so we'll get a different number each time, randomized timer, sorry about that, and y equals RND times 10, and we're going to go ahead and print y next x. And so what this does is, and since we got the for loop, it's going to print out a random number 10 times from 1 to 10, and y will be saved to the random number, and it's going to print 10 times. And so if we run our program, we have got 10 random numbers, 10, 9, 7, 1, 9, 7, 10, 2, 9, etc. And if we run it again, we should get different numbers. See right here, 4, 3, 1, 5, 3. Keep running it, and we should keep on getting these random numbers. Now, you will notice that eventually, if we keep running this, here, we will eventually get a 0. And we don't want that. We do not want a 0. We want a number from 1 to 10. So a very simple solution to this is just go R&D equals, instead of 10, 9 plus 1. And what this does, you can see 9 plus 1 does equal 10, but that's not what's happening. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. That's not what's happening. Y equals R&D times 9 plus 1. So, Y will equal a number from 0 to 9. And so, let's say hypothetically that this number that it comes up with 0, well, look at this. It's going to go ahead and add 1 to 0, and boom, it's 1 and not 0. And same goes for 9. If the number equals 9, just add 1, and then boom, it's 10. So it can equal from numbers 1 to 10 if we run our program. We will have numbers from 1 to 10. You can keep running this as many times as you like. You will not get 1, you will not get 0, and you will not get anything above 10. It will be from 1 to 10. Keep running it as many times as you like. You're not going to get 0, and you're not going to get a number over 10. And so, do practice this code, and you can rearrange it to whatever you want. You can do 99 times 1, and that will give you numbers from 1 to 100. Run our program. 35, 27, 45. So you can do lots of awesome stuff. Keep adding those numbers and you get larger random numbers. See? So this concludes this tutorial. I hope this was helpful to you in any capacity. This is random numbers for you, important in my opinion, especially for game development. And the next tutorial we'll be actually developing a game with the randomized timer function. And so do tune into next tutorial for that game development. And my name's Zachary, and I bid you farewell.